Oh.
W.J.R.G. We are Connecticut's number one gospel internet radio station, live in the studio with Action First broadcast this evening. I'm Jerry Green, all right, along with Dr. Wayne McCray, and we're going to have a great time tonight. And we have a special guest like we do every Thursday because we have someone that's a blessing to the community. And tonight we have our special guest, Alderwoman Jeanette Morrison. How you doing tonight?
I'm great. How are you,
I
Jerry?
am blessed. It's good to have you in the studio with us, all right?
Thank you for the invite.
All right. And also Dr. Wayne McCray, all right? He's here too, live as well. Well, first of all, let's get started. Are you a native of New Haven? Were you born and raised in our city?
Yes, I was. I was born and raised in the Great Newhallville
Okay.
section.
Newhallville, all right?
Yes.
I said the great Newhallville.
Yes,
All right,
that'll
all right,
always
all
be
right.
home.
Yes, Newhallville. Now, let's talk about some of the great things about New Haven. If someone wanted to move to New Haven, people move, they move out of Connecticut into Connecticut. If someone wanted to move into New Haven and you being an older person, what good things would you tell them about New Haven to make them come here? If you could think of something.
One of the things, there's so many great things about New Haven.
Okay.
But one of the things that I love about New Haven is that you can get anywhere in New Haven in 15 minutes.
Oh, okay.
There is
There you
nowhere,
go.
I think, and I've been in a lot of places throughout this country. I don't know any one city like the city of New Haven
There you
that
go.
you can get to in 15 minutes. And I think
And you're right about that too.
that's huge.
Right, and you're right about that too.
Yeah.
I never thought about it
Yeah.
from that standpoint.
Yeah.
You're right.
You
In
can,
15 minutes.
15 minutes you can get from one side of town to the next,
Right.
which I think is good.
But one of the things I got to say about New Haven as well, we're a small city, but then again, we're not small. Meaning this here, because I graduated in 73, all right? We're going on 50 years from Richard C. Lee High School. Some people still in New Haven that have been here just like me, and I don't see. All right, I don't see them.
Wow.
I don't know because they're working or whatever, but I do run into them. Yeah, I've been here my whole life, and so I'm saying New Haven is small, but it's big because sometimes we right here we don't see each other.
Right.
All right. I mean, I don't know if somebody might live on Grand Avenue or the Hill section or like you said, Newhallville.
Right.
It's just strange.
Right.
We could get around in 15 minutes, but a lot of times we don't see each other the way we should.
Right.
Right. I mean, maybe at a funeral or something. You know what I'm saying?
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yes.
Now, what made you decide to get into politics?
So, so just to back up a little
Go
bit,
ahead.
as I said, born and raised New Haven, Newhallville, graduated from Hill House High School.
Okay.
I had the opportunity to go to college. I went to HBCU. I went to Morgan State University. Graduated
Wow.
in '90. Then was able to go to graduate school at Boston University.
Praise God.
And graduated from there in '92. My major was social work, but I never wanted to do the traditional social work where, sit down, individualize problems, things
Right.
of that sort. I was always interested in like the bigger picture
Okay.
when it came to helping our people.
Right.
And so politics wasn't something that I was looking for. I saw a little show one time on TV, a local show about a Board of Alders meeting. And when I saw that, I said, wow, that's something I think I could do.
Right.
But then when I started thinking that's politics, you got to do stuff. I don't know what that stuff was to get into politics, and I'm not doing it.
Right.
And so about almost 20 years after that, shout out to Jackie James. Jackie James was one of my coworkers at DCF, and I was a union steward. And one day she just came to me and said that she threw my name in the hat as a person that might be interested to run for alder.
Okay.
Initially, I said no. Why would you do that? But then I thought about it and said, this is my opportunity to do my social work from what they call a macro perspective.
There you go. And plus, a lot of people complain. All right. And my thing is, if you want to complain, do something about it. All right. Don't just talk it. Be about it.
That's
all right.
right.
So that's very important as well. Now, what does actually alderman or alderwoman does? What is your job, Billy?
So as an alder, because unfortunately, alders at one time there were only white men.
Okay.
And then so
Wow.
as time went on, rich white men, I should say. That's why people always say, I haven't seen you, you ain't been around. Well, back then, the rich white men could go around and knock on your door and see what's going on. But I'm a single black mother. So therefore, I'm not able to be at your door every single day.
Right.
But we became alders early on in my tenure as an alder since 2012.
Okay.
And as an alder, your job is, when I talk to like young people, I'm like, it's like a mini mayor of your community.
Right.
There's 134,000 people in the city of New Haven, and our city is broken down into 30 wards. Right. And so I represent what they call Ward 22, which is Dixville. Which I'm very proud to represent the Dixville community. And so as an alder, my job is I'm the connection of the residents to the city, to city government.
Okay.
And, whatever people need or expect out of city government, they come to me. But my job is to empower the residents so they don't need to come to me for everything, because as residents, we should be able to make those same calls and get the services and whatever else we need done on our own.
Right.
Because we're residents and we pay taxes.
Right. So also, you help with some of the decisions that the mayor, some of his policies that he might want to pass through. You guys have to vote on that as well, right?
Right. So the way that the structure is the Board of Alders, we're the authority over the city. The mayor, just as well as anyone, their job is to propose various things.
Right.
And so the only way that any proposal by the mayor, by a resident, by anyone can get through is at least 16 alders have to say yes.
Similar to Congress. I mean,
just like Congress.
Just like if president want to, pass a bill through, he has to go through Congress. They have to vote on it.
Exactly.
I want people to understand the importance of what you do. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So you have to have 16. The good thing is on the Board of Alders is only 30 of us. Okay. Whereas when you go state government, there's a lot more, and then federal. Forget it. Look at Obama. He couldn't get nothing through, as smart as he was.
Yes. It's big challenges.
Yes.
There's always big challenges.
Yeah.
And
look at the House of Senate and the House of Representatives as well.
Right.
Yes.
Right. But that was my next question. What is some of the biggest challenges in our city that we face today? Right, especially for you alders and not just you, even residents. What are some of the biggest challenges, would you say, that we face today in New Haven?
One of the biggest challenges is jobs.
Okay, there you go.
Jobs is so important, because I feel, and the members of the Board of Alders feel, if you make sure that someone has a good job, all those other things will work itself out.
Right.
Because when people are able to take care of themselves and their families and able to eat, you don't have all this craziness. But when people are fighting just for those basic things, then that's where a lot of craziness comes into play.
Right.
And so jobs is one of our big issues. Housing.
Right. And housing.
Housing is a huge issue. As my full-time job, I work for the Department of Children and Families, and a lot of times when children come into care, one of the biggest barriers to children going back is housing.
Okay.
The lack of housing, and unfortunately, the state is not putting as much state funding into
And
housing,
housing, right?
like they did years ago. And so housing becomes a very big issue because these are private developers that come into our community, build these
Yep, yep, yep,
apartments,
yep.
and they cost.
Right, right.
They cost.
Well, one thing I do want to say, like I said, you're representing Dixwell Avenue. We're going to talk about the Q House in a minute, and some of the things that you guys are doing in that area. Because, like I was showing you a picture back in the '70s. See, I grew up on
Yes.
Dixwell Avenue.
Okay.
Like I said, my father had a business there for years, so I know all about the old Dixwell Avenue, the old Q House. I remember that Charlie Dog House, that a lot of Tommy and Kelly's. You probably remember. I don't know if you remember some of these stores. Tommy Kelly. I was a big clothing store back in the '70s. Tommy Kelly's right up there by wasn't by Newhall Street. It was on Dixwell Avenue, but it was up there. What do you call the Rotary? You remember what you call the Rotary?
Okay.
All right, yeah,
Oh,
they had the
okay.
Monterey Club. Come Wayne, you should remember some of this stuff, right?
Well,
The soundtrack
some
and all
of it,
that.
yeah, I remember right up
okay.
there, right at the,
Okay,
at the.
go back.
I lived at 420 Dixwell and back at Dr. Graciano's office.
Okay.
In that park.
They consider that the
we could
Broadway.
leave.
Right. Okay.
They consider that the Broadway. That
Okay.
section.
Well, yeah, Broadway down there going there. Yeah, by where Colors was at.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I know about Dixwell back in the '60s and the '70s. I don't know when you was born, but I'm just saying. All right, I know about Dixon. Y'all doing a great job. What you're doing now. So let's talk about the. Well, like I said, I asked you about some of the challenges. Now, what can we as residents do? To keep New Haven safe. What you think we can do as taxpayers? Because now, to me, I was telling somebody one day about my older person, and I said I gave him an example. If I had a problem, let's say for example, there's a drug house down the street, right? I'm not gonna go in there and tackle the drug dealer. I will find out who my older person is, let them know where the house is at. All right. I mean, because it ain't being a snitch. It's just the fact that you're trying to clean your neighborhood up.
Right.
Right. And now it's up to the older person to go to the police chief or whatever, and they make it happen.
Right.
That's how we got to work together.
Right.
That's how I was telling somebody because they're talking about snitching. That's not being a snitch. I said the bottom line: if you're going to keep your neighborhood safe, you got to use the people in place, right? That's in place that can help us out.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, you said a valid thing there because being a homeowner as well.
Right.
In the neighborhoods, we want our property value, to be able to get the right ratings in certain neighborhoods.
Right.
So if you are having challenges in the community, that's just going to depreciate the value of your property. In most areas, if the landlords are not there in the area,
exactly.
They're not going to upkeep it in a proper way that it should and not take the same responsibility, as being living under quarters, one of the things we see that, I clean up when I clean up in front of my house, I go all the way down to the corner, because I know that when they come through and they doing property value, the ratings,
exactly.
It shows and it reflects. So if the neighborhood, if everybody's not keeping their properties up, it's just going to make the value depreciate in that neighborhood.
See, that's why I asked the question: what can we do as residents to keep our city safe? But then again, if there's a bad apple, I mean, we have to, we're voting to put people in place, right? It's not a question of trying to, like I said, snitching on anybody. It's a question of keeping your neighborhood safe. Right. And if someone is doing something down the street and they got all this traffic coming in and they're then drugs bring in guns, now you got territory. That's when you call your elected officials and try to get it done from that way. That's what I was explaining to somebody one day. They said, what can we do? I mean, it's not you can do because we're taxpayers in this city. All right. So I mean, the bottom line, we got to work together. We can't depend on the police chief or you to get it. We got to work together as residents. All right. So
y'all answered that question.
Right. but
that is exactly. But y'all answered that question,
right.
And like I say to my constituents all the time, you have to be my eyes and ears. I work.
Exactly.
I work 2 jobs.
Exactly.
And I live on Winchester. I don't live, say, on Dixwell Avenue. And if there's something going on over there, the residents have to tell me.
Yeah, you want to know about it, right?
I definitely want to know. But then that's how I fix things, right? Because my job is to know who does what in city
Right,
government.
right,
And
right,
when I get calls from my constituents, I make sure that I call the right person.
right.
They go in there and take care of it. Like you said about the drug house. Now, I'm going to tell you, like housing, it that always is a big issue. You have that bad apple
There you
that
go.
lives in your community.
Right,
And as a community, you have to work collaboratively to get that person out, if you
right,
can.
right,
You know, if you can.
right. Exactly.
But it's up to the residents. They can't always say, well, the alderwoman or the alderman ain't doing nothing. Well, if I don't know, I can't do.
Exactly.
You know.
And that's why I said us as residents, we have to, we got to speak up. I mean, if you want to keep your neighborhood safe, you got to speak up. You're a taxpayer, all right? I mean, because some people are gonna come in, they don't care, all right? So I mean, they don't care. Like, I'll give you an example. I remember my license plate got stolen one time. Went out there, my plate was gone. So my stepson told me, Dad, I know who got your plate. Right? He didn't tell me, he knew what car it was on. That's what he told me. All right, which car? He told me. So I went down the street to get it. I had my screwdriver, went down there, and the guy was sitting on the porch. And he said to me, "What are you doing?" I said, "That's my plate." He said, "No, it's not." I said, "Yes, it is." All right. And he said, "Well, come on, brother. No. I said, "Look, we'll do it the right way. Let me take it now, or I'll call the cop." All right. Then he said, "You ain't got to do it, that black brother." Then he took my screwdriver and he took it off and gave it back to me. You wasn't kidding. You wasn't taking my license plate and keeping it. See what I'm saying? The bottom line is, I mean, yeah, they said, well, Jay, you was bold enough to do that. He was bold enough to take it.
Yeah.
Right? See, I'm just saying, but that's a neighborhood that we live in sometimes, and sometimes we can't be afraid. We can't be afraid of people in our neighborhood. I mean, hey, like I say, if we do it the nice way, or I know where your car's at, I just call the cops and they'll come, and you don't want me to do that.
Mm-hmm.
See, and that's how we got to be in our neighborhoods, man. We can't depend on anybody to do our work for us,
Right.
right? Anyway, that's a whole different issue, man. So,
Mm-hmm.
anyway, this is Action First broadcast on W.J.R.G Radio with Dr. Wayne McCray. Also, we have our special guest, Alderwoman Jeanette Morrison. She's handling the Dixwell Avenue area. All right, so we're proud of what you're doing. All right. Anyway, so let's talk about the Dixwell Q House. I was at the festival a few weeks ago with Diane X, all right, and Juan Castillo was broadcasting live. What's the role that you played on the Dixwell Q House, and what is the Dixwell? What can that Q House do to make an impact in our community?
So the Q House, that project goes back a lot of
Long
years,
ways.
right? And so the Q House closed down in 2003.
Yes, it did.
And so there was a group. Shout out to Miss Jackie Racy and the other seniors that came together to advocate to getting the Q House back. And so for an 8-year period from the time that it closed, this group tried to work with the mayor at the time
Okay.
to rebirth the Q House. And so unfortunately, the building went into foreclosure. And so what John DeStefano did do at the time was put money into the budget to get that building out of foreclosure. And they did that, but the building sat for a lot of years.
Right, it did.
So I came around in 2012 when I was sworn in. And I said that that was my motivator to becoming an alder. Because when Jackie talked to me about becoming an alder, the first thing I said, can I work on the Q House?
Right.
She was like, oh, you can work on whatever you want. I guess she just wanted me to just get involved.
Right.
I was like, okay. So the first meeting that I had, actually I got elected November of 2011. December 2011, I was alder elect, and I put together a meeting between myself, a couple of other alders, this group, Miss Bracy and her group, this other youth group, and another youth. All the people that said that they wanted to rebirth the Q House.
Get the Q House
So
going.
I put them all together, and we became the Q House, steering committee
Okay.
to really see what it is that we're going to do. Make a very long story short, we went through a lot of different years.
Right.
We were able to get some money through the state to do an assessment of the old building, and that's when we realized that the building that sat there, which is the second rendition of the Q House, no longer worked for the community.
Okay.
So we talked about how do we rebirth our Q House, but at the same time keep the lights on.
Right.
Because finances was the thing that brought the Q House down.
Okay.
That's what
Okay.
it really
Yeah.
boils down
Yeah.
to.
Mhm.
And so what we decided to do was have that 20,000 square foot building knocked down and build a new 54,000 square foot building and bring in other partners.
Right.
And those partners included the Stetson Library, the Cornell Scott Hill Health Center,
Wow.
and the Dixville Newhartville Senior Center, along with what we call Q House proper. So now this 54,000 square foot building, 30,000 square feet of it is the actual Q House proper, which includes a full size gym, a
Wow.
commercial kitchen, a crafts room, a dance room, a couple of conference rooms, a fitness area, a place for young people to hang out. We have a museum, which the museum is named after our former mayor and her husband, Tony Harp and
Okay. Okay.
Wendell Harp. And what else? And then we have our big plaza, which the plaza has always been there. It was the
Right.
Daniel Stewart Plaza, which was at the front of the building and now is at the side. And we're currently working with the granddaughter of Mr. Daniel Stewart to do a renaming of that plaza because that is
Wow.
his plaza.
Okay.
Wow.
So
Just hold that thought 1 second, because I want to run this video here of you in action in the development process. And now it's open. And let's just reference this 1 second. Let me
All right.
go
Go ahead,
here.
my
They
brother.
can, and when they
Okay,
don't,
let's
And this
see.
is W.J.R.G radio. We're having a nice discussion this evening, all right? And we have so much that in our city that we're trying to,
seniors are
you know,
upstairs on the second
develop,
floor.
you know, and keep it going, man. We have a great city, man. New Haven is great.
Yeah.
I've been here my whole life.
yes.
New Haven is great.
The
Okay,
seniors
here
are
we
upstairs
go.
on the
All right.
second floor. They have a whole lot of kids that they can, and when they don't, they
So you've been here your whole life? Okay, that's me talking.
because the whole
Yeah.
purpose is
So the
they have a whole lot of kids that they can, and when they don't,
okay,
they
hold
can
on.
be.
So that's the inside of the Dixville
Yeah, when they
Q House, right? When they was
Right.
when they were
working on it.
putting it together.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and one of there's a story about the gym. Back in the 60s, well, the original Q House was opened in 1924,
Right.
and it sat in the area of on Dixville where Daddy Grace Church is. And in the 1968, the city came to the Q House to say, look, we're gonna move you further down the street as this property is being sold, but we're gonna move you and Congregational Church down the street. And in moving you, you're gonna get a gym, and you're gonna get a pool,
Okay.
and it's gonna be wonderful. So when they moved them down the street, and when they finished the building in 1970 or 70 or 71, there was no gym and no pool. And
Yeah, I think I remember all that too. Yeah.
and that really, that's when the city really had distrust
Right.
with city government, because it's like you moved us out of our place where we had basketball and all of those things to a place, and now saying that we have to go over to the school.
Right.
So when I got involved in this project and we were getting closer to getting our Q House and looking at the building in itself, we made sure that there was a gym. And I always told everyone, we're going to have a gym, but no pool, because we can't afford to maintain a pool.
Right.
But we will have swimming programs. And so one of the things that we're going to be doing is we're going to purchase a few vans to be able to take our young people and our seniors to, like the Hill House High School or Payne Whitney Gym, or LEAP, which is across the street, which LEAP is our operator of the actual Q House building at this time. And to make sure that people have the swimming program. But we have a huge gym.
There you go. I mean, and that's one thing about kids, and we love sports.
Right.
So you got to give them something to do.
And one of the other things that I didn't say that we have in there, which is the thing that's so close to my heart, not that I'm into it, but we have a recording studio.
Okay.
Also,
Wow.
Oh,
I mean, people like to rap too. They like, but there's so much talent, I mean, among our people, but you got to give them something to do. You got to have something for them to do.
Right.
Right. Even when I was coming up, back in in the '60s, and we had things to do.
Right.
We had baseball, or the Q house was open.
Mhm.
You go to the Q house. Different events. You got to have things for
That's why
kids.
I
Even the
put,
Freddie Fix a Parade.
Bristol
Right.
Street,
Now, I
that
mean,
was
back
the
then it was
first
big.
Q house.
Right.
Now, what's the status of
The
that? You know anything
second
about that
Q
one?
house,
No, I wasn't
Okay,
involved in
okay,
that,
okay,
so I don't know the
Yeah,
status.
that was
of it.
something big every year
this
too.
spot
The
that
Freddie
we
Fix a
stayed
Parade
at,
coming down
and
Dixon.
that was a
Right.
That was
20,000
real,
square
real,
foot
real big.
building.
Have you ever
And
considered
now
running for mayor or
the
any
third, and hopefully,
office? No.
No,
Lord
I just
knows,
wanted to get
hopefully,
this Q
the
house done.
last
Like
one
over the years, I've
is
done
4,000
different
square
things
foot
Right.
with
that
my
serves
board.
as
I have a
one-stop shop
wonderful,
for
wonderful board of
So,
alders where we work
what else can
together
you
as a
ask
team
for?
for the betterment of
Yeah,
New Haven,
yeah.
and we've done a lot of different
Thank you
things.
There's a
for
lot
the
of things,
tour,
and there's a Stetson
Alderwoman.
Library.
Right.
There's a lot,
Of
And
and
so,
course,
and you got
yeah,
the
for
other
coming. I appreciate
building
it.
things you're building too in that Else Color Plaza, right? You got something coming up.
yeah,
for that?
that's it. That's what you call across the street. That's
Right.
Ward 21.
But that's
Right.
another.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, but we're all together.
Right.
Right.
But I'm saying, but it's still fixing up the area.
Yes,
It's still fixing up New
yes,
Haven. And that's the main
yes.
thing. It's fixing up. Go ahead, Doc.
Also, I just want to reference this photo, a couple more photos here
Okay.
of the skate park. Just talk about that as well a little bit because, and that's a good thing where it's located because we also have the Yale community that's adjacent to the community. And we know that a lot of the college kids, they
Right.
use the skate park a lot over in that area. Just share a little bit
So,
about that. That's some of the other
so
successes.
our skate park that's a whole lot happened during the pandemic.
Right.
The pandemic was a horrible thing.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
And it still
It
continues.
still continues today, right?
But during the pandemic, I look often reference Dixwell as that beacon that came out of the fire.
Okay. Yep.
Because we had a lot of things happen. So we have a skate park now,
Right.
which is on Webster Street. And the skate park was created because two young men from New Haven contacted me one day and said, Alder Morrison, me and my friend, we teach kids how to skateboard, but we do it in the parking lot in back of Stetson Library,
Wow.
where
Okay.
we have cones and stuff, but cars come and it could be a little dangerous.
Right.
And we would like to build a skate park over in Scanterbury. Can you help me with that?
Wow.
So when they called, they said, "Can you approve that?" I said, "Well, I can't just approve
Can't
it,
prove it, but you
but
can put it
I can make sure that we bring this to the community
Right.
and we talk about that because I think a skate park would be an awesome thing. A lot of times when I thought about skateboarding, I thought about more so, white people and
Right.
But
Right.
then when I learned that the number one skateboarder was a 19-year-old African American male from New York City, and just how this sport has really
Grown.
grown.
Yes. And plus,
that-
give them something to do.
right.
Give them something to do.
And give them something different to do.
Right,
Because
right.
in Scanterbury, you have a basketball court. We have a very nice park. You have the swings, you have all those things. But this skate park is the one element that everybody participates. All ages,
Right.
all genders, all colors, and they all work together. The older ones help the young ones, the
Right.
young ones help the old. It's just a beautiful, beautiful sight.
Right.
And
I'm
if
looking
you
at
ever
it. Yes. Dr.
pass
Wayne put it up on
by,
the screen. Yeah.
Mhm.
if you ever pass by the skate park, it's never empty.
Wow.
Never. I mean, 7 days a week, except when the kids are in school. But when the kids are in school,
But
the
that
older.
gives them something to do.
Yeah.
And-
And we have a pickleball court.
Right. But that
over
gives them
there,
something to
too.
do.
Yes.
And that's what kids need, something to do. And I'm like, let them enjoy their childhood. And
Yes.
when you become a man or a woman, put away childish things.
Yes.
And I don't want everybody to have no childhood.
Yes.
All right. Let them enjoy. I had a great childhood.
Yes.
I'll be honest. I played Little League Baseball, Major League Baseball. I was in the Boy Scouts, the Cub Scouts.
Yeah.
I mean, my mother put me in everything.
Yes, right.
I had a
Young
great childhood.
Marines.
Right.
Yeah.
Once I
My
became,
son was in the Young Marines.
once I got older, that was it. I had no excuse.
Right.
I ain't no Michael Jackson. I can't say I have no childhood.
Right.
I had a good childhood. Now, who inspired you coming up?
My
Your
mom.
mom's okay.
My mom.
Let's talk about your moms and
my
that's what she
mom.
do.
Her name is Betty Morrison. My
Okay.
mom. My parents, like I have great parents. My parents were together. They were married and everything. but then they got divorced early on in my life.
Okay.
And in those days, a lot of times the husband worked and
Yes,
the
the
mom stayed home
stayed
and
home.
take care of the kids and all that stuff. So when they got divorced, my mom had to work.
Okay.
And she decided I have to go to school. I have to get an education.
Right.
And so when I was about 12 years old, my mother decided to go back to college, go to college.
Okay.
She went to college and then she graduated and then she got her master's degree.
Okay.
And she became a therapist. And so I always tell people all my life I've been in therapy because she's been practicing on me and my sister. And I used to always say to her, because it was hard.
Right.
It was hard on her, it was hard on us. And I used to say to her, I don't know if I'm going to go to college, but if I do, believe me, I'm not going where I have kids because this is ridiculous. She used to be at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, have homework and all that stuff. And so, but her doing that and then her always pushing, you got to go to college, you got to go to college, you got to go to college.
Right.
You have to, because you want to be able to take care of yourself.
Right.
And so I did.
Right.
And she inspired me, and I'm so thankful. And I went into the social work field again. Right. I didn't want to deal with the individual problem. I learned that you can do social work in so many ways.
There you go.
So,
there you go. And you want to be a blessing to other people.
Yes.
I mean, because that's what it's all about. Being in the community. Because to me, you can have all the knowledge in the world. If you don't share the knowledge, it doesn't mean anything.
And that's the reason why I was so adamant about the Q House.
Right.
My community was such a blessing to me all through my years of college and graduate school until I came back. Believe me, there was such a blessing. And I wanted to figure out what is something that I can do as a thank you.
Right.
And I utilize all my skills. And
all
my skills.
There you go. But you want to be a blessing to somebody. Right. You want to be a blessing, to your community.
Yes.
Like I said, you can have, just like some people, we get so greedy, with ourselves. You got all these clothes. Like for example, if you're not gonna wear something no more, give it to somebody else. You ain't gonna wear it, right? Or it's like you have a car. That car is no good until you drive it. Right. You just sit in the driveway until you drive it, right? Exactly. You can have $100 bill. It can sit on that table. It ain't no good until you spend it.
Right.
See, but that's how we gotta look at life. Right. Until we give, and I don't care if it's knowledge or just whatever, it don't mean anything.
Right.
So that's why, like I said, you're giving to your community and you're being a blessing to somebody else and eventually they're going to watch you. Because people, be surprised how kids watch. Mm-hmm. All right. You could be a role model if you can just bless one person when they're young and they see what you're doing. All right. You'd be surprised how that roll over.
Like my mother would say, children hear what they see.
Exactly.
Not what they hear.
Right. I had a lot of role models coming up. Because I was a very observant kid watching people, and to me that was great. Because if I see you doing something and I see the work you putting in it, and that inspired me. So we're going to be inspiring somebody else young. So telling you, somebody's watching you.
And one of the things that I do want to say regarding the Q House, as far as like a community voice, now that the Q House is, we had our ribbon cutting on November 6th. To officiate the building. Last week, Stetson Library, they had their ribbon cutting to officiate their portion of the building. Soon we'll have another ribbon cutting for Cornell Scott, and they're coming there. But as far as the Q House is concerned, although it falls under the city, because the city owns it, the state gave us $15.5 million back in 2016 to be able to build our new Q House building. And so between the state's funding and the city's funding, everybody put that funding together, and this is what we have.
And you got it going.
Along with that, although it's under the city, we still have a community voice. So we have the Q House Advisory Board.
Right.
And the Q House Advisory Board are people that represent various entities. We have someone that represents, like philanthropy. We have someone that represents the library, the community, good. Every different, to take the politics out of it.
Right.
I'm going to say Jerry Green's going to be on it because Jerry Green's my friend. No, it's various entities because we got to keep this Q House going. And so with that advisory board, this is the way that we ensure that the community's voice is heard. And then the other piece of it, although the city owns it, it's ran and managed by LEAP, is the LEAP Youth Organization.
Okay.
And we went through an RFP process. They answered to the RFP, and they managed the building. They
Okay.
also have one of their LEAP sites for after school programming
Right.
and camp, but they manage the building. So if anyone wants to do any kind of programming at the Q House, be it exercise class, they have everything going on.
Wow.
Exercise, dance, and crochet and painting, every gym,
You said they got a
everything.
recording studio too, right?
The recording
Yeah, good.
studio. And so all you have to do is go on DixvilleQHouse.org
Yep.
to be able to sign up for any kind of program that you want. As far as the recording studio is concerned, LEAP is contracting with a community organization called Breed Academy
Okay.
to provide podcasting instruction, music production,
There you go.
and videography.
Right.
And so everyone will be able to sign up to do those kind of
Praise
classes.
God.
And then we'll have drop-ins.
Q House.
Just like with the, we have a game room in the,
There you
because the game room, someone said to me, I woke up one day and said, we have to have a game room. We got to have our pool table.
Right.
And because someone said to me one day, well, what does the Q stand for Q House? Quinnipiac? And I'm like, no, the old timers tell me that the Q stands for the Q stick from the
I didn't know
pool,
that.
from the pool. And
I didn't know that.
that's one of the reasons we had to make sure that we had
I didn't know that either.
pool tables and our ping pong tables,
Yeah.
and we got the games like
Because
Galaxy.
that Q House back in the
stuff.
'60s, that was the most. That was the place. That was the place, man. I
Mhm.
mean, even playing ball, man. If you couldn't play no ball, just don't go in the Q House.
Mhm.
And the Super John Williamson, all the guys is in there, boy.
Yes.
So I mean, it was good times
Yes.
in the Q House. Man, Dr. Wayne, you have any questions?
Yeah, well, just one. I want to reference this photo,
Okay.
and she could talk about it. I know on the Yale campus there was an African American student that was a history with the statue. Talk about the statue of the history of the statue.
Okay.
And I'm gonna put that image so that they can see it.
One of the other things that happened during the pandemic in Dixville is that we have, I call him my black man statue, Mr. Lanson.
There you go.
Mr. Lanson is, he was a former runaway slave from Southington, Connecticut. And so, because people are always like, there's no slavery in Connecticut. Yes, there were.
Yes, they were.
He was a runaway slave from Southington, Connecticut. He came to New Haven he came to New Haven. But when he came to New Haven, that's why I always encourage young people. If you're gonna go somewhere, leave with a skill.
Right.
Have some type of skill set. He left, came to New Haven, and he was like an engineer. And so the mayor at the time, his name was James Hillhouse, he was an abolitionist. He didn't believe in slavery. Okay. He learned about Mr. William Lanson and asked him, would he help to extend the dock out at Longwharf? Okay. Because the way that goods came into the city of New Haven was the big boats would come into the ocean, but they would have to send the little boats out to get the goods and roll them back in. Mm-hmm. And so they wanted Mr. Lanson to extend the dock so they can bring more goods into the city. And this was that first piece of economic development. And so that's what he did. He also built the New Haven portion of the Farmington Canal. Okay. And that's how goods got up and down, from Massachusetts to Connecticut, as far as, again, economic development. Okay. And so they called him the governor. He was the governor of Black people. He was one of 800 free people, Black people in the city of New Haven. Wow. Everybody else was slaves. But the unfortunate piece was that well, a fortunate piece over where the old Franklin Street projects used to be. That land used to be his land where he owned a hotel.
Wow, a little history there.
And
Look
that
at there. Look at
hotel,
there. That's
that
Yeah.
hotel allowed blacks and whites to come
that's all
together.
right.
But the chief of police and the tax lady or tax man, whoever, they didn't like him because he had money and he let black and white people come together. And so what they did, they constantly put charges on him. He
Wow.
got arrested. Sometimes he would get arrested and be brought to jail 2 times in a day. And they kept doing it, kept doing it. And then so his attorney at the time said, look, you know they're going to come after your hotel. So you should leave it in trust to me. And then once you get all your legal stuff done, then you could come back and then you can start all over. So he did that. He went, handled his stuff, came back to get his hotel. So we know how that story ended, right?
Yes,
There was no hotel
no hotel.
at all.
Wow.
And unfortunately, Mr. Lanson, he died broke and destitute. After all, he also was a founding member of Congregational Church.
That's a great
And
history.
so he, but it was unfortunate. He died broke and destitute after all that he did.
Wow.
But
Sad.
what the Amistad Committee did was they brought him back. Chaz Warner, Al Marder, those people, their groups, they brought him back and they did an RFP for a sculpture to create who he is, what he looked like. And this woman out of California, her name was Karen King, out of Oakland, she created Mr. Lanson. And so I would recommend, and that's not on Yale's property.
Okay.
That piece of property is right between the Yale New Dorms and the Yale Health Center.
The health plan,
and that
right.
one little plot belongs to the city of New Haven. And so
wow.
he sits on the city of New Haven. So I like to tell that story because, you know, there's so much history in New Haven. And the other piece that I wanted to say is that my ward is one of the only wards that's 50% permanent Dixwell residents and 50% students, Yale students and faculty. So by having these two groups come together, you see so many things that blossom out of it. So.
All right, this is Action First broadcast with Dr. Wayne McCray. Our special guest this evening is Alder Jeanette Morrison. I got one final question for both of y'all since we're talking about a little history. You guys know who Dixwell Avenue is named after? You know the history of Dixwell? A lot of people don't know. I was at Gospel Fest one time. We was on Gulf Street. You know, you got Whaley Avenue, Gulf Street, and Dixwell. Do you know who Dixwell Avenue is named after? Dr. Wayne?
No.
You know the history, right?
Yeah.
All right. You ever heard of Judges Cave on
the
West
three
Rock?
judges.
The three judges?
Yeah.
You heard about this story that there was, I'm reading it right now. The guy name was John Dixwell, I think his name was. Yeah, John Dixwell. Then the other guy, it was from Whaley Avenue. His name was, let me get him up, William Goff and Edward Whaley. So Gulf Street, Whaley Avenue, and Dixwell Avenue were the judges that was
the three judges.
The three judges on the run. And they hid on the West Rock, up there, Judges Cave. You ever been to Judges Cave?
Yeah.
All right? You been up there?
I haven't been there.
Yeah, I've been there when I was a kid. They took us up there. All right, Judges Cave. All right, and that's where they hid at, and people were bringing them food. So they named them 3 streets after them. John Dixwell, William Goff, and Edward Whaley. And also, Sperry Street was named after somebody as well. Right? So that's the history. A lot of people don't know. They live on Dixwell Avenue, but they don't know that part of it as well. That's how I want to share that. Gulf Street, Whaley Avenue, and Dixwell Avenue was named after them 3 judges. All right, that's going to wrap it up. Just a little history since we're talking about Dixwell.
Yeah.
All right, a little history. All right,
Constance Baker Motley is from Dixwell also.
Exactly.
And she was the first black federal judge.
That's
from Dixwell Avenue.
That's all right. And like I said, in B&L, I showed you a picture of B&L. That was right on Dixwell Avenue too. So we had some good times. I want to thank you for being our guest this evening. All right. I want you to keep up the great work and what you're doing. All right. In our community, you know, I mean, and your work is not in vain.
Thank you.
All right. The Dixwell Avenue Q House and everything you're doing is speaking for how God allowed you to do what you're doing. Dr. Wayne, you close up.
At this time, only thing we can say, I want to thank you for taking action first with us today, and it was epic. And we have to bring you back on at another time later on, because you know history is important right now. You know, I just came from up at Plymouth Rock, and there's some things that I feel that is full circle and things that are coming back. But I want to thank you for taking action first today, and it was an honor, and I'm so glad that you took the invite, and you're always welcome. On the broadcast and with the internet radio station W.J.R.G.
Thank you. And I want to thank you guys for the invite to allow me to talk. Anytime people always know, talk about the Q House, sure, I'm there.
Yeah.
Be able to talk about that because that was for me a 10-year a process.
Yeah.
And you go through ups and downs anything that long.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful to my mom for continually encouraging me to keep going, with the group, because I always say I'm just that guiding light, but it took the community to push, to have that collective one voice to say, this is what we want.
And you made it happen.
And I want to also thank the Dixville community for allowing me to serve as alder for the last 10 years, because they didn't have to allow that. But it takes, as we see, 10 years to get something done. And so I thank Dixville for allowing this old girl from Newhall to come down the street. Because I am a Q House kid, so I always went to the Q House as a kid. So I just thank everybody, and I thank you guys again.
It's so powerful because even like you said, in that span, it took some time for it to happen. We also, Apostle Loria Morrison, she had a revival there on the grounds there before it was developed.
Yes.
And so, we had a revival for the community.
Right.
Before.
I was there.
Yes.
She had me speak.
Yes. I remember.
All these great pastors. Okay.
Yes, and it was definitely a powerful move, and so to see the full manifestations of what the Q House is today, and that interceding for that community through the revival, it's a beautiful thing what the Lord is doing. So I want to thank you for taking action first. So can you say that with me? We always end with action first. All right.
Action first.
All right.
Thank you.
WJRG Radio, and we had a great time this evening. Here's some more great gospel music.